Hey guys, it's Bird here, and today we're going to talk a little bit on game mastering is hard. I've been thinking about this for a while, kind of just various ideas and topics, and it kind of plays into some other stuff like low prep versus high prep GMing. Um, but one thing that I see a lot and I kind of have been thinking about is how there's so much beginner advice on YouTube that sort of tries to ease people into game mastering and gives these early beginner tips, but there's not exactly like advanced tips or advice on where to go after you get the first couple parts down. I think that a strong premise for this is the fact that pretty much nobody can get better at anything unless they know how to strategically get better at it. And this goes for anything in life. If you want to be a great basketball player or an amazing poet or a musician, you have to know how to strategically practice that skill and actually know how to get better at it. And game mastering is no different. If you meet someone and their reasoning for them being a super good game master is because they have been doing it for X amount of years and ran, 1,000 plus sessions and completed 20 plus campaigns, that doesn't really mean a lot. There are people who have played League of Legends for 20 years and they're still Dirt 5 and suck at the game and will feed bot lane within the first 5 minutes and lose it to you. Time doesn't matter in terms of actually being good at something. Being good at something means you put effort into being good. And just like everything else in life, that applies to game mastering too, being a storyteller, crafting things, understanding game mechanics and why they're there, which is something that I've noticed a lot as well in like YouTube videos is a lot of advice doesn't really include how altering these game mechanics will affect the tone of the game. They just say that this will make it better or solve an issue, but there's no in-depth analysis on why it's actually doing that. Why does changing the resting rules cause the game to feel different? Why does lowering HP or decreasing it or increasing or decreasing damage or choosing action economy, why do these things have an effect on the game? Some people even argue they don't have an effect at all, and it's just the storyteller who actually makes it, which I think is just completely false. But if you're a new game master, here's a good way for you to get better at the game and really anything in life. And it's not some top 5 list. It's not some do this and then your game's going to improve 100 times. It's work. You actually have to put effort into it and critically analyze what you're doing and then reflect on that and move forward with this new information you have. So, first off, to new game masters, um, accept failure. Failure is part of learning, and failure really isn't failure. Failure just is learning. Failure is a word we've attached to learning in a lot of senses through a ton of societal effects that I'm not going to get into and are kind of pointless to get into here. But learning or failing is just learning. You cannot learn something without failing at it first. You will run a game, it will suck, and you will move on and get better at it. Now, the part of getting better, and this is actual actionable advice that you can take, is after a game, take a quick list. Like, take a notepad, do whatever you need to do, and take some notes or mentally note what went wrong in that session. Or if you're not sure what went wrong in that session, send an anonymous Google form out to your players and have them fill it out on what do you think I did poorly? What do you think I did great? Was this NPC, are you excited to see them again? Do you hate them? Do you love them? Were they boring? Do you not even remember their name already? And go through this list and actually reflect and try to create a strategic plan for how you're going to fix this in the future and what you did wrong. And even if you run a session and you ask your players, hey guys, like, is there anything I can make better? And they say, no, that was the greatest session ever. Don't become complacent that your players have enjoyed this session. Therefore, you shouldn't critically think about it and learn how to improve upon it. You still should find the weak point that you think could be better, could have been improved, could have been changed, and do that. And the way you can actually do that is when you take this note, don't just store it away and think about it. Think like, what am I going to do next session over this one thing? And pick like 1 to 3 things, because sessions are 4 hours long. So you have a lot of time throughout the session to do this. And like, say to yourself, like, last session, this NPC interaction was kind of bad. He wasn't super memorable. So this next session, I'm going to focus on making this NPC more relatable or funnier or exposition better or drop rumors in a more natural way, and identify this thing and then purposely target that in the next session. And don't pick too many things, just pick a few and target it in the next session. And then you can analyze after that session is over, okay, was that better? Did I deliver a point across? Did I get a better reaction on my players? If you're running a horror game, were they more scared? Was the intensity high? If it's a combat situation, did they find it more intriguing? Was there more interaction? You can look at these things and look at how your players are reacting, and you have to actually critically analyze it and think about it, and then purposely try to improve that thing next session. And I think this is one thing that like misses out a lot, because a lot of new GM advice is just start small, make a village, and then build out from there and watch some YouTube videos, and like eventually you'll get the hang of stuff. Like it's kind of a hodgepodge of advice over the entirety of GMing. And I think that a lot of people kind of start getting the basics down and they start going with it. And it's not horrible advice. I'm not saying it's completely pointless, but obviously we still see like a lot of stories and a lot of questions like I see on Reddit or people in YouTube comments asking how to handle certain things. And I really think it's because people don't really try to critically analyze their own games. They're like, okay, I'm running a Clue session next time, so I'm going to go look up this Clue video, and it's going to give some basic Clue tips, like always have 3 clues and a couple other techniques on having clues in my game. And then I'm not going to improve any past that. I'm not going to innovate on it. I'm just going to run it like that video said, and then we're going to stagnate, and we're not actually going to make it better. I'm just going to forever run clues in that method and not try to critically analyze what situations you can do it, like foreshadowing clues or making a clue not traditional, having it, don't have the clue be a MacGuffin, have it be some other piece of information, change the format of the clue or where the players have to do to get it. People kind of stop doing that, or people just never look up the advice in the first place and they only watch that one video that says, well, if you just read some of the DMG and if you just start with a small village and start world building from there, then like you're good. And to be clear, if everyone has fun, yeah, you're winning. At the end of the day, it's a make-believe game. If everyone's having fun, you're fine. But if you don't want to be that guy who like shows up in a Reddit horror story at some point, looking at your game and being honest with yourself and trying to create a plan for how to actually improve on a lot of the game mechanics that you have can be really helpful. It helps a lot to say, okay, next session, I'm going to have this fight, and I'm really trying to learn how to make solo monsters better. Making one monster that can challenge an entire party effectively and has everyone on their toes, and there's no minions, it's just this one guy. And each session that you run this solo monster, they can be a couple sessions apart, or run out for another if you're in some kind of mega dungeon. You tweak things a little bit and you say, okay, did that work a little better? Did I actually knock some players down and make them, really scared? Did they have to expend resources? Were people paying attention during the fight? And you create this list of things you're trying to improve on, and you have to analyze them each time. You can't just, run it, and then if your players say like, yeah, we had fun, and then you just move on and you run, 100 more games, but you never actually reflect on those 100 games. You might get a decent amount better, but you're not going to improve at like a rapid rate because you're not analyzing what you're doing. You're not using any critical thinking skills to improve the craft of actually telling a story. And this goes with anything in life. You can't do anything and not purposely think about what you did wrong and having a growth mindset of, this is what I did wrong, this is what I can do to improve it next time. And I'm not going to beat myself up over being wrong, because like we said earlier, failure is a part of learning. Failure is not even really failure. It's just learning. You are just learning. Like, the word failure shouldn't even be part of the sentence. You're just learning how to do something. Another free pro tip: if you have friends who make fun of you for failing while you're trying to learn something, get better friends. But in the long term, I just want to throw this video out there. It's kind of just like this thought's been going on of people kind of giving this like easy GM advice. Start small, expand it bigger, and pick up like little tricks here and there. But the actual core of the thing is, GMing is really hard. If you're actually game mastering a full world that has multiple factions and a ton of complicated magical plots, and you're having to think of armies and kings and dungeons and the interrelations between all of those in real time, while improving, while doing pacing, while controlling the story itself and creating like reliable story beats, while making sure everyone has spotlight. And then it can get even more complicated if your party splits and maybe you have a couple members in one city and a couple members in another, or you're just having to learn how to cut back and forth at the same time in a city. That is a hard game to run. And that's not really a video you see a whole lot for new GM advice of like, hey, by the way, once you get, a couple years into it and you want to run a complicated campaign that maybe has multiple cities you have to do this in, and you're having to look at a map or update the map with current changes and keep track of NPCs that are across various nations, perhaps, depending on the scale of the world you're in, things get tough. You have to remember a lot and keep good quick notes and, keep on your toes as your players are doing things. Especially, that's why people say that high-level D&D is so hard to run, because your players, their main limiter on having to deal with all of that so quickly is travel time. But the moment you remove travel time from the equation, even if you're like just riding a griffin, the game gets exponentially harder for the DM, because you have to either improv better or prep more. So that's all I have today. If you liked the video, stick around, like and subscribe. I am a new channel, so I appreciate any time that people are putting in. Have a good one, everybody.